growing up, we were from one of the so-called better families, and my father wouldn't let us outside the fence. So it's a fence all the way around. Not a high fence, but a fence. That's where you stop, right there at the gate. And the sidewalks, Paul, it was so hot that the sidewalks were made with black tar around where the squares are, you know. They had to put tar because with the heat, that tar would get hot and somehow the pattern of the squares would change. I don't understand it. And all the little kids around there could go out there with their bare toes and punch these bubbles, just about this big, that would come up from the tar. And we were dying to do it, but my parents wouldn't let us. So we would go out there with a stick and poke the bubbles, you know, and pop them. And the other kids got to punch them with their toes. I don't know what happened to the toes afterwards, but we didn't get to find out. That was one of the things that we missed out on. And then it was just a little town, and there was a wagon that went around, or more than one wagon, lots of wagons, around the streets, back and forth, crisscross, across the way, selling cantaloupes. And to this day, I can smell the cantaloupes. Because that was 1925.
Oh, so you stayed in Calexico for about 8 years.
I was about 7. And then we got very sick, my sister and I. We got very, very sick because there was a lot of measles going around and pink eye. And we got the measles, and if we stayed any longer, we would have gotten the pink eye, which is a very bad thing in the eyes. And the doctor told my father that if he wanted to keep us as daughters, he would have to get us out of there immediately. So my godfather, the baptism, was one of the richer men in that town, Don Fernando Villaseñor. And my father went to him and asked him if he would take him to San Diego. So Don Fernando did take my father. He had a big touring car, and he took him to San Diego, and my father, in desperation, went and bought cash this really crummy house on Pennsylvania Avenue. And if Victoria ever asks you to take her there and she cries, remember, you got the other side of the story from me. It was a really crummy house. And he paid cash for it. He paid $3,000 for it. Well, we lived there for about, well, like I said, I was 7 when we left. No, wait a minute. That's when we went to San Diego. And then we started school when I was 8. Because we went in May, and that was the end of the school year. So in September, we started American school.
Did you speak English then?
Not a word.
Well, how did you learn it?
In school. You've heard learning something by immersion? Well, we got taken to Calexico, to San Diego, and put into Catholic school, and I was 7, and it was a little Catholic, St. John's. Have you ever seen St. John's School? When we went, there was a half a block like that, of these little rooms that were, you could have, this was the whole school. And the sisters would come on the streetcar all the way from Our Lady of Peace on the streetcar every morning and go home in the afternoon. And we went to school there, and in 6 months we were speaking English. But when I went there, I couldn't say anything. So I couldn't say yes because I just couldn't make the sound come out right. I just couldn't, because the Y is a different thing in Spanish from in English. In Spanish it's a double L sound. And so I couldn't say yes. I could say no. And so when I had to say yes, I'd say, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I got away with it. But we learned it like that. And when I was in the 6th grade, I was tutoring the American kids in English because I loved the English grammar. I just ate it up. And so I would go and sit on the steps during class. This kid would, whoever it was, went with me, and we sat on the steps, and I would make them practice speaking their own language and learning the grammar. Well, that was pretty good.
Can you tell Paul about San Diego in the time when there were streetcars and how you got around? And did your family have a car? And
no, we did not have a car. We never had a car. And we never had a telephone. Can you imagine that?
Can you imagine that?
and we couldn't.
The look of disbelief.
And we couldn't have television because they hadn't invented the television. So then we went to grammar school at St. John's until the 8th grade. And then we went to Our Lady of Peace, and we had to go on the streetcar. And
go ahead.
And come back on the streetcar. But we didn't have any money, so we would buy one ticket for the streetcar, and then I would get on first at this corner and show the conductor my ticket, and then I'd put it in my pocket. And then on the next corner, my sister was waiting, and I would hand her the ticket through the window, and she would use it over again. Are you thinking I was cheating?
No, didn't you feel guilty about this?
Huh?
Didn't you feel guilty about this?
Not at all. Why should I feel guilty for being poor?
Oh, okay. That's reasonable.
Yeah. You can...
And then was there a time when you would walk from your house to Our Lady of Peace?
Yes. So when